Not even sure really what to call it, so I'm just calling it like blocking techniques. But what I'm going to do when I head back into the gym is give you some strategies and drills that you can use off the ice that will help you get to the right spot to make the save, but get there being as big as possible. So we'll just call it blocking techniques. I'm sure there's a better name. You can leave the better name in the comments below. How would that be? So your on-ice goalie coach has probably told you lots of times to, stay tall in your hips, stay square to the puck, be as big a target as you can when you get into the position to make a save. At least that's what I hear goalie coaches telling you guys when I travel around to work at different camps. And I know that we can't always be on the ice every day or as much as we like. So that's what I'm thinking about today. What are some strategies that we can use off the ice to help you execute what your goalie coach needs you to do when you're on the ice? It's about, getting to where you need to be as efficiently as possible, being as big a target as possible, but also in a position where you can move to make that next save. This is Maria from GoalieTrainingPro.com. I'm an exercise physiologist. I design off-ice training programs that actually help you stop more pucks on the ice and reduce your risk of injury. I'll show you what I got for you today. So we're going to start with the basic ingredient, and that is single knee stability. When we balance on one foot, we can use, the sensory input from the base of our foot, all the muscles in our foot that control our toes, all the little muscles in our ankle to make some of those fine corrections. When you are pushing across the ice in your butterfly, you don't get any of that sensory input. It's very, very different. You really just have sort of your hip muscles and your torso to help control you. And if and when you watch a new goalie, they'll fall right over sometimes, or if you remember when you started out, you would lose your balance. As you advance, you're not falling over, but still you're probably not, as solid as you could be. So you might get leaning this way or leaning that way a little bit. And that's going to put you a little bit off balance. So it's just little inefficiencies, but that add up over the course of a game to put you, that half second behind, or just add that much more muscular work to what you're trying to do. So single knee balance. We'll stay tall in our hip. We'll start in a half kneeling position. Hands on our hips, ideally. If you need to start and use your hands a little bit to balance, when you start, that's okay. But, obviously we don't want you, using your arms to balance yourself when you're on the ice. So as quickly as you can, you'll go to hands on your hips. Tall hips, strong torso, and then you're just going to lift up that front foot and really try to hold that balance without fighting it hard, but just sort of find that rhythm and that control. So start with just 30 seconds on each side, build up till you can do 60 seconds on each side without, having to wave your arms or really losing your balance. That's what you're going for. If you've done the butterfly challenge, you know how tricky it can be when we add it into that pigeon flow, then we add some dynamic movement to it. If you're like, butterfly challenge, the butterfly who? It's a free 14-day flexibility program for goalies. It has some specific mobility exercises that'll give you a wider butterfly flare in 2 weeks or less. I'll put a link to it in the description or in the comments or somewhere. If you don't have it yet, you can go check that out. You've got that single knee balance down, so you have the stability that you need to do that. Now, part of it is just a habit. So some of you ask, hey, what's a strength exercise I can do? Because when I go in my butterfly, or when I'm in my butterfly, I'll sit back in my hips. And really, I think a lot of that is just a habit and having trouble sort of finding that balance. Because if we're in that position where sort of the seam on our pants is straight up and down, a lot of your goalie coaches then want you to project over the puck a little bit, so be a little bit forward over the puck. Well, that kind of feels like quite a funny position to be in, and so we sit back because it makes us feel a little more balanced and a little bit more in control. When we get going on the ice and we add those layers of neural complexity, we're going to go back to our old habit. We're going to sit back in our bump. But there are ways that we can, again, practice the pattern, reinforce new, better habits when we're off the ice. So This one we're just going to fully work on keeping nice tall hips, and we're going to think about our pattern and what we do when we go down into our butterfly, and then once we move from our butterfly. For this drill, I am wearing my goalie knee pads. And I have a green super band, and this is attached to the power rack, so I'm really well anchored. I'm not going to pull this over. It's a heavy super band, so it's really taking the load off. I am not even trying to sort of smash into my butterfly, but I'm just coming down, not as wide as I can, just keeping my knees in a little bit. My feet are out wide a smidge, but not trying to get into my widest butterfly. So I'm just coming down, boom, and I'm practicing keeping my hips tall, and the band is trying to pull me back, so I have to engage my glutes to kind of present and push those hips forward. And then it also lets me get this kind of position without feeling like I'm going to tip over. So we'll practice that pattern, boom, driving those knees down, and then staying nice and tall in the hips. Thinking too about, hey, what are my hands doing? Where should I be? Now, before you say it, I know it's different because I'm not getting a release from my blades. I'm a little bit more, I forget what you call it, but it's kind of doing more of a release off the toe rather than a lateral release, because obviously I'm not on the ice. So I have to find a way to get in that position, and in this case, it's a little more just gliding those knees forward, but it still lets me practice staying tall in my hips, which is what we're worried about right now. This isn't gonna be a stamina exercise. We're really just working on reinforcing that pattern and using the band to remind us, hey, you've got to use your glutes to help you stay tall in your hips, to not let the band pull you back, but to stay nice and tall. Despite the way it looks, remember, our purpose of off-ice training isn't just to mimic exactly what we do on the ice, but we can do some deliberate practice so that we're reinforcing the proper patterns when we don't have access to ice. So I still have my knee pads on, I have my glove, and I have my stick. You figure out what wacky things that you do and what you need to work on. I know that sometimes I do crazy things with my stick. So I'm going to use my stick because I know for a fact sometimes when I go in my butterfly, burp, I pick up my stick for whatever reason. Why I do that, I have no idea why I do that, but I do. So, we can think of a pattern. We worked on our butterfly. Maybe I'll work on RVH. Well, where should my glove be? Sometimes when I'm on my stick side, I forget to put my paddle down. So I can be here and then work on that pattern. And where should my glove be? And do I drop my chest, or should can I practice keeping my chest up? When I come over to my glove side, I forget to put my glove just above my pad and to get my stick over there. So that's something that I can practice, and I can just go through, deliberately practice, have that above my pad, get my stick where the post would be. Notice that I'm not cranked into my RVH, putting all that wear and tear on my hip, knee, and ankle. I'm coming down a little bit more of a narrow butterfly, but practicing the pattern. Once I get that, I can add some complexity to it. So let's say I'm going to do quick step and then come back over, drop into my RVH, and check my position. So at the end of each rep, I'm going to stop, check where I'm supposed to be based on what your goalie coach has told you. Don't base it on what I do, and then see how that looks. So let's try to the other side. I come over, quick step, quick step. Did I turn my head and shoulders first? Quick step, then I'm gonna come back, boom, am I in the right position? I'll check here, where should I be? Where should this shoulder be? Am I over the puck? Okay, not bad. Don't add those layers of complexity until you've got just the basic patterns down. Then you'll add one thing. Then when that's perfect, then you can add another thing. It's just like building a house. Start with a simple foundation and then make it better and better and better. So there are 3 ways that you can get in a better blocking position. And it's really about habit and building those habits. Ideally, we would all have access to the ice all the time, and we can practice these with all our gear on. Not practical for most of us, so we can work on building the stability that we need, the balance we need, practicing the pattern and turning on the right muscles to stay tall in our hips when we go into our butterfly, and then we can deliberately practice being in the right position with our stick and our blocker and our body. This is Maria from GoalieTrainingPro.com. I know you're going to give this one a like because, again, I'm wearing my glove and my knee pads and my stick. Make sure that you subscribe because that helps me a ton. I don't know why, it just makes YouTube like me better. And actually makes me feel kind of good. I will see you next time. Have a beauty. Whew. Any video where I get to put on my glove and my knee pads is a great video.